I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Newberry.
Here.
Crowner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Here.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have our consent agenda consisting of 4 items. I entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we'll go into our staff reports and
Just a couple things tonight, Your Honor. We had our first coffee and conversation this morning. We had 4 citizens and myself, Melanie, Ron, and Mike, and Jesse showed up as, well, Mike showed up very briefly. And Jesse showed up as well. And we had a good discussion, some good questions, and we were just talking, hope to do it at least on a quarterly basis, if not more. Probably do our next one. We've been talking about locations, so I want to keep it going, keep it fresh, and maybe we can even do an article and try and get more people to attend. No, another one. But it was a good start, a lot of good questions and comments from those that attended, so appreciate that. And obviously we've been working on the budget. It's taking up a bit of our time right now. As you saw, assessed values, but we'll have to dig into that a little bit more. Community visioning, there are surveys that have gone out from Iowa State University. And Kelly has also posted on our social media account as well, encouraging folks to fill those surveys out. So if you get something from the, Iowa State University regarding community visioning, we would ask that you respond to those surveys and send them back in or complete them. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. And then I sent a copy of the draft housing needs assessment. If you could, it's 180 some pages, that's all. But if you want to focus on, well, there's a few areas and notes that I pointed out that I would suggest you focus on, but also chapters 5 through 7, which are the recommendations. But if you see anything that seems in error or wrong, or you have a suggestion or comment, feel free to shoot me an email and we'll forward that on to the firm that's doing the work. And that's all I have for tonight.
thank you. Public Works, Mike?
Just one thing. I want to remind everybody to be careful with this storm coming. It's nothing to mess with the wind chills and the wind they're talking. My guys may slow you down if you get behind the plows, but going into oncoming traffic to go around this endangers you and the people in front of you on head-on collisions. So just relax and give us time to do our job. We'll do the best we can, but with those kind of temperatures and wind, it's just going to keep blowing it out in the street. It won't be till probably sometime around noon Saturday before we can finally get them cleaned up when the wind lets up, where we can keep the snow from blowing in the street. So hang in there and give us time to get it off. And anybody that can get their vehicles out of the street and off out of the way, it just makes it quicker and easier. And just be careful. It's not going to be a good time to be out there. You can get frostbit pretty fast if you put your car in the ditch. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Jesse?
A couple things going on that. We did get our warning citations in for the snow emergency that we'll be able to put on vehicles. We just got that in this week. So we'll put those on vehicles and try to remind people to try to get the vehicles out the.
We haven't declared a snow emergency, and we don't plan on it at this point in time.
Okay. So when we do, we'll use those warnings. They're different color than our normal warnings. And then the audience tonight is, we're going to swear in Elizabeth if we want to do that at this time.
Okay, let's do that.
That's all I got.
All right, Elizabeth, if you come up. You come up back here.
Any family members that want to take a picture, you can take a picture.
We'll do the pinning ceremony right here after we do the swearing in.
Should be good.
Swear you in right there's fine, I'll be right here. You're a police officer in the city, and then after I swear you in. Oh, and if you want to, you want to hold that.
See, you can get in the center too.
There, I mean, if you want that, otherwise you don't have to. Listen to me and all that. All right.
Hey, Bob, let me grab your chair so the pictures look a little nicer.
All righty.
Welcome. Thank you, Melanie. You're welcome.
If you'd raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, and then state your name,
I, Elizabeth Ropstitch,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
in the city of West Burlington, Iowa,
in the city of West Burlington, Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter as required by law.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
She'll just
There's one right there you can grab.
Got a long name.
That's all right. Thank you.
We'll just go right over in front and
Welcome. Congratulations.
Council picture now.
John didn't get here.
Wait a minute, I need a picture.
now, as exciting as a council meeting is, you guys do not have to stay if you don't.
You're welcome to.
But you're welcome to.
Does anybody ever want to stay?
Anything else, Jesse?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. We don't have anything, Kelly, anything from you?
Not tonight.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I jump shot?
I was doing okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
On the fire side, Monday night, we prepped the vehicles and did some safety talks about the upcoming weather. We don't want to be out at it any more than Mike and his guys, Jesse and his guys, and gal. But we went and covered over some safety details. On the building side, I'm just getting caught back up. I appreciate everyone's thoughts and prayers. I'm not sure. I went in on Wednesday and told Greg I was going to be gone for a gallbladder surgery for my mother, and it turned into something else from there. Not what we expected, but she went peacefully, and that's all I've ever asked for. So I appreciate everyone's thoughts and prayers here at the city, the departments, and then the contractors and residents that I've spoken with.
Council reports. Melanie?
Good coffee and council this morning, and let's have a safe and happy holiday season.
Trees?
I don't have anything.
Okay. John? No?
Not tonight.
Oh, okay.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank Melanie for getting the ball rolling on our coffee grouping, so thank you.
Cool, you're welcome.
With that, if I have any citizen inquiries about business that's going to be conducted today, you can come forward and state your name and address and let us know. If not, we'll move on to our new business. Okay. Our first item of new business is considering the renewal of property and casualty insurance for 2023. Do I have a motion to approve that before we do discussion? Motion?
Support.
Motion support. Discussion at this point. Greg, you want to say anything first?
We reviewed the renewal, property and casualty for the city and the fire pack as well. In our discussions and during our discussions, we discussed checking with other vendors and targeting perhaps April or July and seeing what other pricing is out there, whether it be MC, Travelers, maybe ICAP, and any others that come on board. It's a significant increase. We're hoping it's offset by work comp, which we should have a good year on work comp, but it doesn't hurt to go out and take a look and see if we can't get some better numbers. And with that, I'll turn it over to Cody, who can run through and answer any questions.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Greg, as Greg stated, normally the renewal policies for our package tend to run somewhere between 10 and 15% annually. Some of that each year is not only due to rates, but it's also due to what we call an inflation guard that is put into your property coverages. Every year, the insurance carriers will increase your property coverages by about 4%, and this just helps you keep up with the inflation that goes into building costs. This year, Continental Western increased that inflation guard to 8%. Any of you that are working on a remodel or building a home or know anyone who is building right now know that the construction costs have gone up quite rapidly. So to try to keep up with the inflation, they increased those numbers by 8%, which added $1.4 million to the overall blanket of the city's coverages. So it was not just a rate increase per se; it did also give you some added benefit. Also, Continental Western has a 3-year rate lock on the fire pack policy that had been in effect for the last 3 years. This was the first year of the new, 3 years. Continental Western also notified us that they were no longer going to offer the 3-year rate lock, so it'll now be a year-by-year rate increase, which led to another discussion with Greg about options. And the reason we gave you those certain carriers in our report was there's not a lot of carriers out there in the state of Iowa that will do what we consider our type of municipal insurance. You have to find a group that is not only willing to take on the property and the auto, but you also have to find a group that's willing to take on the liability of your police and fire, which is also a major consideration when finding groups. EMC, which also has a program, which is who you were with before Continental Western, has a 4/1 start date. But some of the other carriers can do it at any time. In order to not be penalized for canceling your insurance early, we would have to stay with Continental Western for at least 90 days or pay at least 25% of the premium. Once we get past that 25% of what we call minimum earned, then we would be able to leave with no penalty. And I have discussed that already with the current broker that works with Continental Western and with us. They understand that the rate increase this year was difficult, and the Iowa Municipal Group may also have in the future, other options. But we have spoken with EMC, Travelers, ICAP. All three would love to have the opportunity to look at it. Them, along with Continental Western, are really kind of your big four when it comes to these sort of proposals. However, none of them were really ready to be able to do something for a 1/1 since, we have different dates. Your IMWCA work comp rate renews on 7/1. And so that one has been a very good plan for you for a long time. They do a great job of taking care of our employees, our police, our fire. So at this time, we could always look at shopping that as well, but I think their rates have been pretty steady over the years, and they've been very good along with the state rates. But finally, there's also been some add-ons. We added a new fire truck this year, which is part of the increase to the fire pack. And so, again, between that, adding a few new vehicles, increasing payrolls, expansion of some of the other things. Oh, also the water park. When adding the lifeguards and some of that, taking that responsibility away from the YMCA, we then took that liability on ourselves, which was also part of it. So again, while we do want to help you take a look at rates, it wasn't all just rate. It was some things that we did add. So, do any of you have any questions?
Before council considers the motion, did you get an answer on the fire pack cyber? And
Yes.
if
So
we're covered under
yes.
the cities?
Yes. So you have cyber coverage. So you have two different policies, the fire pack and what I call the city pack. So you have two different coverages. Both of them have their own separate cyber policies built in. In the past, they've been around, I think, $150. This year, it went up well over, I think, $817 for each. So considerable increase. In the past, we've kept both on, but in talking with Continental Western and the underwriting team, it's been discussed that you really don't need both. The equipment that the fire department uses is on the city server with the city computer, so through a city email. So I really don't think if Chief Ryan, for some reason his computer got hacked, it would not necessarily have to go through the fire pack's cyber policy. It would go through the cities. So that would right there knock off $817 for us, and that was one of the recommendations that I put in the letter is that, and I did talk to the carrier, and that is something that we are seeing. Almost all of our municipal groups are taking that cyber off of the fire and leaving it just on the city. Unless the fire department has their own servers, their own network, their own email addresses. And it's also something that we would not be able to double up anyway. So if Sean had an incident and, Mayor Teeter had an incident, we wouldn't be able to cover them. I mean, it'd still be on the same fire pack. So, yes. So that would be that's a way right there where we could save some money.
And that'd be my recommendation, to approve the, insurance is noted minus the fire pack, the $817 for,
Cyber.
for the fire pack. And then we'll work with Cody and company to try and get some comparables and alternatives to see where we stand overall in the market. And really, I don't know of anybody else personally other than those three. There's very few in the municipal sector.
And they've all taken rate increases. And as somebody that works with your local school districts, this is about in line with what the schools have taken as well.
I'm a little hesitant on ICAP though, for a couple reasons, but main reason is once you're in, it's very difficult to get out. It's similar to IMWCA, but once you're in, it's very hard to get out. You have to take that liability with you because it's a municipal pool.
What does ICAP stand for, Greg?
Iowa Community Assurance Pool.
So it's like the states?
No, it's cities only.
Okay.
It's under the, not really their umbrella, but it's out of the Iowa League of Cities offices, as is IMWCA and ICAP are both under their offices, but they have separate boards. And they're simply an insurance pool for municipalities. And there are a number of participants in there. I've participated through another community before as well. There's pros and cons, but the biggest con is the difficulty in getting out of the program once you're in. But the raises have been relatively steady over the years.
So, yeah. So, any other questions?
I think your news last year was better for us.
I know. And you know, the work comp premium last year went down considerably,
Yeah.
which helped the overall premium. And
Keep your
again, the
fingers
rate locks that have been locked in for the last 3 years have kind of helped us minimize the damage that we've seen. But the derecho a couple years ago devastated the state of Iowa's property rates. Reinsurance carriers have really been, there's less of them, and they've really taken a hard hit here recently. There is no such thing as an $800 bumper claim anymore. Now you have to have the sensors in your cars fixed, and there's no longer a $300 windshield. It's the windshield plus the sensors to get fixed. You know, weather patterns are changing. I've had 2 new roofs put on from hailstorms in the last 4 years. It's just, unfortunately, between the climate and just inflation of buildings and then the types of claims we're seeing. Liability claims, especially for municipals, have gone up, lawsuits, things like that nature. So, but the good thing is from a loss ratio, your city looks very good, so it will not be a difficult sell to the markets. It'll just be, can we find somebody that's going to give you the best coverage and service and price? And finally, I will, to Mike's thing, just being an insurance agent, I agree with him about being careful. We find that the accidents, I'm glad that the snow is not starting until 8, to be honest, because most of the more claims that we get called are when the snows come overnight. People get up at the same amount of time, and they're trying to get up here from Fort Madison or from Mediapolis or Mount Pleasant, and they're trying to hustle. We seem to have less accidents when the snow comes during the day. People are a little more easy to get home. So hopefully that will be the case, but please be careful out there. Anything else?
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote.
I would motion to amend our
Oh,
previous motion to
sorry.
remove the cyber pack the cyber package on the fire pack.
So
On the amendment, Ryan?
Your Honor, first vote will be on the amendment, second vote will be on the motion.
Okay. All right. I had a second on that. Did you get that, Kelly?
Yes, got it.
Okay. Then our first vote will be on the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Okay, for a vote on the package.
I just want to confirm what we're voting on. Is it to
Package
renew
as
the
amended.
package that'll
as
put
amended.
insurance in effect till the 1st of April? In the meantime, we'll get quotes from the other companies and see how it looks, but what we're voting is to pay the premium to get us through those first 90 days, right?
No, the premium, the package will be in place for the next year unless we switch.
When do we get these competitive quotes from the 3 other companies?
And that, our goal is to get those for either an April or July start time. And then we can cancel, Cody mentioned, we can cancel the current policy after 90 days.
Okay, so we put it in place for a year, but then we can go back and cancel, but we got to keep it in place for 90 days.
Plan would be to come back here in March
Gotcha, okay.
with the numbers,
Thank you.
and then give everyone the opportunity to then look at those numbers and decide, do we want to stay, or do we want to switch?
I just want to make sure I heard that right. After 90 days, or we got to give a 90-day notice?
After.
You just have to pay at least 25% of the minimum earned
I'm with you.
premium,
Okay.
which is 90 days.
Not 90 days from March, yeah, good
Yeah.
point, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I don't think I have a second on the motion.
I second.
It was,
You made, I have, I'm making the motion, but I don't have a second on the. Who was it?
I thought Therese
Use the
seconded.
motion.
I made the
motion.
on the original motion.
On the original motion.
And on the,
I will second if we don't have one.
and I made a motion to approve minus the $817 fire pack.
We'll see 90 days from now whether or not we stay with it, right?
Correct.
We're good.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Okay. Our second item of new business is consider renewal of the Employees Wellness Program for 2023. I have a motion in favor of this.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Support.
Trees.
Therese. No, it's actually Melanie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, motion support, so
Hello.
Good, thanks. What's your name?
I'm Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Yes. So some of you, if they don't know who's your name,
were you here last year?
I was.
Yes, I think I was out in the audience when you were doing that, so yeah.
So some of you I do know. For those that don't, I am Tara. I'm the wellness coordinator, and I work at Southeast Iowa Regional Medical Center. Been with this group now for at least 5 years. And so I'm going to talk about this 2022 program. You should have a packet already. And I have kind of an executive summary over what's happened this year and then a proposal for 2023, which is crazy. It's already. So we did have at the start of the year 21 people interested in participating in the wellness program. One no longer works for the city, so that dropped us down to 20. And so through the course of the year, we took track of all the participation that each employee had completed. So that would have been a quarterly program, and each quarter we had 3 things that happened. There would be a newsletter that came out on the first month, the second month would be a seminar, the third month would be the challenge that is associated with what we talked about in that quarter. And then every single month there were group workouts, there were wellness walks, they could have turned in preventative exams, physical activity logs. The police had their own program that we did. The administrative studies side had their own program, mini programs that they did. And so throughout the year, they're so to speak. Okay, we just completed their wellness screenings, which happen every year in November. And so if you look at your sheet, you'll see that only 15 of our original 20 participated in our wellness screenings. And you can see the metabolic syndrome guidelines and how those have tracked from since 2018. Ultimately, There's not a huge change in the biometrics, so we're staying kind of still and steady, which is good. We do have some younger police officers now. We have some now that we've retired, so it's sad. But ultimately, biometrics are still pretty darn good. You can see that blood pressure was up just a smidge, and sometimes it's just time of day that kind of occurs in. But ultimately, HDL, which is our good cholesterol, is better. Our LDL, we still have just one person. Triglycerides are just a little bit higher because we did have one more person than last year complete them. Same with the glucoses, and then the waist circumferences. So ultimately, this year was our highest participation compared to the last 5 years. And so I'm very grateful to have seen that and gotten to work with most people at the city level. We had much more people complete their preventative exams this year, so I was really grateful for that. It's very well known that some people don't like to do preventative exams. They don't go to the doctor when they're not sick. And so trying to push people to complete exams, mammograms, colonoscopies, flu shots, COVID vaccines, dentals, visions of sort. I really try to push them to do that. Sometimes it's difficult, but we did a little bit better this year. We had 6 people actually complete their routine annuals that turned them into me. And then we had 12 employees overall turn in 1 or more preventative exams. Last year we only had 6. So I'm very glad to see a 50% increase on that. So they're using their insurance the way they're supposed to. The next part of the report is just kind of the participation based on the seminars and the group walks. And so if you look at 2022, which is the right-hand column, comparing to our previous years, the participation was actually pretty good this year. We had more people coming to the seminars. We had more people coming on our wellness walks, which are held either outside in nice weather or we go to the mall and be mall walkers for a half hour. So I was glad to see that. We actually had people that would have never done them in the past complete them for a few of those walks, so I was good to see that. Challenges completed as well. You can see in the 2022 column, clear at the bottom, our 4 challenges was we did a stress personality kind of thing where they had to learn what kind of stressors they might have and the personality associated with how they might handle those stressors. We did a stretch out program, which is doing flexibility exercises daily, if not weekly, hopefully, while they're at work. We did do an ultimate HIT, which is a pre-made program of HIT exercises, high intensity interval training. And then this last one was the memorial stair climb. So basically they had to climb the same amount of stairs as Twin Towers, just like firefighters did on 9/11. They did that with the stair mill downstairs. So we had better participation in those challenges than we did last year and even the previous year. So positives on that note. So I did create a little bit of program summary for you. You can read it. I'll kind of go over some key points here. So obviously our program did not really change the concept of it. It stayed the same as the quarterly program as I talked about earlier. The police officers continue to do their same fitness program, which is we did a fitness testing in, I think, May this year, or yeah, I think it was May. And then we did one in September, and so we're looking at improvements upon that. They also doubled and used that fitness test for their union contract for 1 day off. So it kind of served the purpose for both ends of there. You can see that we had categories of push-ups, sit-ups, the back scratch, which is a shoulder flexibility, a vertical jump, an agility run, a 300-meter run, and then a leg press to test strength. So you can see how many police officers improved in each of those categories. The administrative employees side, which is city workers along with Mike's crew, they had a program called 12 Days of Fitness. And so basically they had 12 days to do 2 exercises of their choice, and the goal was to have some type of improvement over 12 days span. So maybe they chose push-ups, maybe they chose a wall sit of some sort. We only had 3 out of 10 employees complete that. So I'm not sure why maybe there wasn't as much participation there, but we at least had 3. Overall, we had a great year for reward turnouts. So you can see the breakdown. 14 of the original 20 that started the program are receiving a wellness reward. And so that is fantastic. That is well more than what we've had last year. And so Tier 1 was our top tier. They had to get at least 30 points or more. And we had 3 administrative side and 4 police officers. So it was a very big boost on the police officer side to see those rewards. And then going down further, you can still see that we had 2 police officers in Tier 3, Tier 4 was 1, and 3, and Tier 5 had 1. So overall, I thought it was a fantastic year. If you have questions about the actual program and the outcomes that we did for this year.
There was one data point I wish I had, which is the wellness screening numbers by year. Do we know that in previous years?
That's the front page.
I know that we've got 15.
So
Oh, I see N equals, I'm with you.
Yeah,
Yep,
so 2021, there was 14 that completed it. 2020 was 12.
I'm with you. Yep, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No questions about our program?
I think it's a great program. One thing you didn't mention is advice, too. You often offer advice. I know I've certainly taken it as well, but I know others, staff as well. So you certainly tailor that advice to the individual and their needs as well, which I think is an excellent benefit as well. So.
Always available for email and text.
Bingo.
I'd just like to ask the council to take this into consideration. I've done this every year. They've had a program. Of course, I've always been active in physical fitness, but I think it's an important thing as a police officer. I expect the other officers also to be in shape. And Tara is, as sometimes she gives you information that really helps get you going back. In the last 3 years, I've had a torn rotator cuff, torn tricep, and a serious calf injury. And thanks to Tara, I was able to get back instead of 6 months after the torn rotator cuff, got back in 4 months. The same thing with my tricep and calf muscle. I was able to still work even with the serious injury there because she just got in the right area, what I need to do, and just provided so much helpful information. And I know she does that for the other officers also. And they should be here. You know, I know they use the program, and when we do our testing, it's a quantity. You know, the guys are together and doing this, and of course, Chief Logan, he's there all the time too, so he's leading by example. So I think it's an important program, and I wish you would pass it again this year.
Thanks.
Well, my only comment I will make every single year is I feel the wellness screening should be mandatory, and anything we can tie to that, I think we should. So
they have to do a wellness screening for sure to earn a reward. If
Right.
they do not do the wellness screening, you cannot earn a reward. That at least is part of it. But yeah, I wish more would do the wellness screenings.
Make sure you count all my points next year.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and talk about the proposal then for 2023, which I see I made a typo. I put 2022 Wellness Program Proposal. We're going to continue with the same format because it's working. Why change it? We're going to do the quarterly program, the newsletter, the seminar, and the challenge. There will be a slight change in the police program, a challenge that we do. So in previous years, we really only just said, let's do a pre-test, let's do a post-test, what is the change? I'm going to add in that we need to start maintaining that fitness from the prior year if they were a previous officer that completed it, versus just letting them kind of slough off for a few months that maybe I wasn't hammering it into them. So I'm going to add that little blip in. They don't know that yet. They will soon.
So you're not going to let us finish all the holiday cookies and candies before we start?
Well, you got 2 weeks before this starts. So yeah, the program cost I put it in here before I actually knew who was interested and wanted to sign up. So I kept the same 15 people. And so you'll notice that the cost is $3,845. That was a price proposal of $400 more from last year. However, I do have a list, and we have 12 people interested, potentially 13. Maybe, I don't know about Bryce yet. He says he's going to, but we'll see. 13, so that price will be just a little bit less, obviously because of the wellness screening cost. We wouldn't be completing it on that. So not a huge jump. The only price increase really came from was the quarterly program component. So I upped that a little bit. It just takes me longer to make PowerPoints in today's world. And then I did a little bit of price bump on the police independent program, since we typically do 2 days of testing rather than just one, and it takes a little bit more time, especially when we've got over 10 officers at this point, you know. So hopefully we can keep the price well within means, so I'm not doing an 8% increase. You can see in the next few pages I've detailed everything, except for I clearly must have saved it without putting in quarter 3. So you can see quarter 1 is going to be about mobility. Quarter 2 is going to be about fruits and vegetables. You guys can come to the smoothie demo if you'd like on that month. Quarter 3 is actually going to be about core training. So we're going to talk about the deep muscles of the core versus just the sit-ups that people do all the time. And then quarter 4 is we're bringing out the tailgating. So we're going to talk about how healthy tailgates really are. So overall, that's kind of the proposal for the following year. Any questions about that?
So I'm not for sure how this all works, but does all this happen during work hours?
Majority of it, some of it, not always. So what happens during work hours are me coming to do wellness walks. So it's a 30-minute wellness walk once a month. And so we either meet here or we meet at the mall, and as a group we collectively walk together. We do have the seminars, so that happens again once a quarter. So that happens for 30 minutes here at City Hall. And then we do workouts, but most of the time people are off shift because they don't want to, like the police officers generally aren't on shift when they do those workouts. And not everyone attends those, but unless they want to learn something new or whatnot. So not a ton happens during work hours. It's mostly done on their own time.
Well, I heard you say something about a day off during the, what
so
was?
The police have a contract with their union that if they can maintain minimum standards of fitness, which is set forth by the academy, they are able to have 1 day of PTO accrued for them. So it's kind of like a little perk. If they are staying in shape and can continue to do the job at least minimum standards, hopefully, they're not going to hurt themselves in the field. Obviously, things happen.
Well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And not very many police stations do that. Burlington does not, I can tell you. They do not offer that for their officers.
And that's also according to Iowa Law Enforcement Academy standards. And some of you guys, they get over, are still testing at the age of 21, and know we have a younger crew. A guy can test higher than his actual his age group is. It's real important that they stand above what he has to do, what she has to do.
That sounds like a good program.
That looks good to me.
Okay. All right, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, Ringo. I wanted to hear about the people using it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for asking.
You bet.
Okay, our third item under consideration, payment to the city of Burlington for West Burlington's share of the RISE grant reimbursement owed to IDOT following ABB's failure to create enough jobs for the RISE grant project.
Motion to,
For discussion? or-
Let's just
motion for
discuss.
discussion.
Yes, motion for discussion. I don't, do I need one for that or not? Yeah, I do, okay.
Motion second.
Or,
Motion and support then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Further discussion. Thank you.
So I've done a little research on this. Back in 2016, there was a RISE grant application done by the city of Burlington. And there's an MOU that the city of West Burlington and Burlington entered into for cost sharing as a portion for that RISE grant opportunity. About the same time, the city also entered into a separate forgivable loan with ABB as well. And the city did recover a portion of those dollars when they didn't meet all of the requirements. This is specifically for the RISE grant opportunity, or RISE grant that was done, awarded in 2016 or applied for in 2016. And apparently, they did not meet their job requirements as noted. Only through 61 of the 128 FTEs they were supposed to create over 5 years. IDOT sent the letter that's included in the packet to the city of Burlington some time back, and Burlington paid the entire amount back. Our share is 25% of that amount. And what I did note is that at the time, for some reason, neither a development agreement or there were no provisions for clawback that were done at the time. My plan going forward is, I guess, a fewfold. One, we need to pay it back, but my plan is to put together a demand letter with ABB. I've talked to the city of Burlington and I've talked to the chamber as well. My plan is for both myself and Chad to sign that demand letter and send that to ABB to see if we're successful. I did talk to John Danos. I haven't done this before, but the Agency Street project is in the urban renewal plan, and we could recover these dollars by creating a debt, increasing the amount that's in the plan, which is $325,000, to with an additional amount to cover this refund here, and create that debt internal loan and recover that next year following our December 1 report. And it's something I've not done before. Wanted to run it past John. We kind of bantered it back and forth, and he was comfortable with doing that, especially since it's in there. So what we would do is bring back an amendment to the urban renewal plan, create the debt, capture the funds later this year. But if we need to, assuming, but the first thing we need to do is submit a demand letter and see if we can be successful with that. But
So who would you recover it from?
ABB.
From ABB?
That would be
second
that would be the goal.
Not the first demand letter, but the second one. When you're,
Oh, the first one was,
yeah,
or the second one?
Second.
This one here.
yeah.
This
No,
one would be a demand letter against to ABB.
How can we recoup the rest of the money that you were talking about? By causing debt?
We're going to submit a demand letter asking them to repay that amount because they failed to meet their obligations under the that they purported under the RISE grant that was submitted. And then if hopefully that's successful, that's really what should happen.
And if that's successful, we're done.
And if that's successful, we're done. If it's not successful, we have the ability to add it to the urban renewal plan or amend the urban renewal plan and create debt to recover the funds.
And who would we recoup that money from?
Property taxes, TIF,
From
tax increment financing. But at least there would be a mechanism to recoup those dollars.
So whose job is it, because I know we had issues with Borby, whose job is it to make sure that they have the number of hires they're supposed to have? Is that their job, or is that the chamber's job?
Yeah, the company has a reporting requirement, and typically that, they provide that information directly to the state on, and it's over a 5-year term. DOT used to be a little bit more flexible with this project and didn't necessarily require repayment, but in the past several years, they've been pretty strict in the repayment requirements. So they failed to meet the requirements, as did they with the other forgivable loan that the city of West Burlington had directly with ABB. Now, we did have an agreement with that forgivable loan, and were reimbursed. For some reason, nobody thought to do some type of clawback provision agreement or development agreement at the time with this RISE grant. So what I'm offering is about all I can do is the demand letter and come up with a way to reimburse ourselves if we need to.
I have 2 questions. If the demand letter doesn't work, do we have any other repercussions with ABB, or are we done?
Not that I have determined, been able to identify.
And is there a time frame that we need to make this payment?
Burlington's already made the payment. They've requested that we make the payment.
Just wondering. I'm in.
It's basically our commitment under that. I would suggest, we'd do an internal loan and pay ourselves back.
I just didn't know if we had a
and
little time to
ideally,
wait
if we
for
had,
ABB to respond before we needed to.
Right. The obligation is there. I think what we need to do is try to get it back first, and then
So you
if
would
not, we
recommend
have
us
another mechanism by which to do that.
Us paying it now and then wait for,
Oh, yes.
hopefully ABB to
Yes.
recover. Okay.
I mean,
I think it's our responsibility to do so under the MOU.
I agree. I just didn't know what the time frame was.
Yes.
there's none of us that actually want to pay this, but that's our obligation. It was the agreement we were in at the time. It should have been put in there. None of us were here to do that, though. Well, Therese was here, but who knows the conversation back then and why. I mean, it might have been a project you would have went ahead with anyway, even without the RISE grant involved at that point in time, so.
We were not the applicant for the RISE grant. The city was, the Burlington
Right,
was.
but being involved in it.
But we were involved, yes.
But we almost stepped in this same pothole again just a year and a half ago, right? So I'm glad we didn't do that. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of these clawback agreements anytime we start down this road in the future.
And that's where we just, personally, and I know others, just were not comfortable that the jobs were going to be created. And to my knowledge, they haven't changed at all to date, last I heard, so. But there is a 5-year period to meet that job requirement. So we need to have a good, solid project, but we also need to make sure that we're covered and have the ability that those funds are secured in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or agree as a council, hey, we would go ahead with this project anyway. If we get the grant, great. If we don't, we would have done this one anyway, okay, and we all know that, and we move on. And maybe that happened before, maybe that was the conversation then, but yeah, I think we need to get it paid, and I doubt this demand letter is gonna do anything. We have no leverage, they have no reason to pay us, there's no agreement in place. But, yeah, why not try?
Right, exactly.
It's sure going to sound good.
It's the right thing to do, so.
I do think there's things that we can pull from the documentation and what's included in the grant that they agreed to, and so we're certainly going to give it our best effort. And John agreed to take a look at the demand letter if I needed him to. So.
Who's John?
John Dennis is our bond counsel.
Okay, thank
We
you.
work with him on
Thank you.
TIF and urban renewal and debt issuance.
And what do you think the likelihood is that we're gonna get something out of ABB? If you're
Well,
a gambler?
I believe they have the resources.
I think so too. but-
And so I guess we'll
I thought we were.
give it our best shot based on the language that we have.
All right. Got it.
Okay, we don't have a motion on the floor for this one then, so we just move on. Well,
No, yeah.
Motion for discussion.
We have to have a motion to have discussion, so technically there is a motion in a second, yes.
Yeah, and we voted on that, and so we had our discussion. So at this point, do I have any obligation to this particular item?
We need to vote on whether or not to make the payment.
You have a motion and a second, discussion, now we have to vote on the motion.
All right. Okay.
I make a motion to pay $58,280.75 to Burlington in support,
The 58, yeah.
$58,000 in,
A second.
previous agreement.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign, that motion carries. Looks like we have another payment situation here, right? Pay request, consider pay request number 18 with a fixed, change order number 8 from Boomerang Corporation for the Mount Pleasant Water Tower and Booster Station Project. Motion and
Support. For discussion?
motion? Yes.
I thought somebody did make a motion.
No, I didn't. No.
Make a motion that we consider this payment 18 for discussion.
I'll second.
The second, thank you. Okay.
John?
This is John.
Yes.
Yes. So discussion on this then?
Good.
Now, with this contract, they have been including disincentives. This is the first time we've ever done that. You'll see under Section 2, under work summary, you'll see total disincentives noted on there. I do know that their business manager has asked to talk to our engineering firm about that, but they have signed off on all of the pay apps to date that have included the disincentives in it. A little bit different process. And not that they won't argue, but they have signed off on all of the pay apps that include disincentives in the pay app, so.
So, Mike, are we still having problems?
We got a small punch list, is all I'm waiting on.
Some of it won't be done until spring, though, just.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still have to withhold that amount, make sure grass comes up and everything's draining and all that proper like you always do. You always hold so much back. But now I got a door that needs put in and a flow meter change from Jetco we're waiting here and a surge protector, which 2 of them parts are back ordered and they can't get their hands on. So other than that, it's up and functioning, but not functioning right until we get those other 2 components. But they have completed all the work and the main's in and the tower's up.
And we're retaining, if I read this right, like $253,000, that 5% of the contract value, is that right?
Plus, yes.
Plus, okay. And
uh,
that more than exceeds and it sounds like that would more than exceed the things on the punch list here. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, $250,000.
So
They got a gold door.
we have the retainage plus the disincentives.
Okay,
Got both, so.
Yes.
we're
Okay,
on the
change.
Good end of the stick here.
good, okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you. It went away. Go back to paper. All right, number 5, consider resolution appointing a representative to serve on the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission Board of Directors.
Motion to appoint Mayor Ron Teeter if he is so willing.
I'll support that.
All your
I
support.
thought we had somebody else that was going to do that.
I typed your name on there.
What's that?
Looks like they typed your name.
Well, I think they were just saying who.
That was in the letter. If somebody else, if depending on, I guess, your desire to continue, or if there's somebody else that has an interest, you could
I've
certainly
found
swap
that
that
because
out.
their meetings are at noon, that I can't make them. I usually go by Zoom, and I don't know whether that's what the council would be happy for me to continue doing, or whether we would rather have somebody else who would actually physically make the meetings.
What do you think? Are you effective coming?
I've noticed that Zoom has a delay or a lag a lot of times, and so if you're talking, you're talking behind the subject, or you're voting behind the subject, or whatever. I mean, it happens here too. I certainly have been able to keep up with what they're talking about, and maybe things would work out better another time. So if you want me back on, I will accept that, but I would like it to be open to somebody else if they'd like.
Your Honor, you could always appoint me as the alternate if you can't attend.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with the planning process and the TAC committee and so on and so forth.
Teresa's retired.
But obviously, I'm more than willing to have council do that as well.
What days are they on?
It's like Wednesdays usually. I
Is
think
it
that's-
monthly?
Yes.
I just want, if what you're doing is working and West Burlington's needs are being heard and we're having input, then.
So for example, this is where the funding for Mount Pleasant came through. Typically, it goes through the TAC committee, and there's an application process for those STBG funds, STP funds, and that goes then ultimately to the board. The recommendations due for approval. Excuse me, and that's where Mount Pleasant Phase 2 funding largely came from, and well, hopefully where Phase 3 comes from as well. We'll be submitting that application again for Phase 3. They extended the time frame. It's typically due at the end of the year, but they extended the time frame this year. But I've already talked to Matt Walker about submitting that application for Phase 3. Basically, it's a pass-through for state funds, federal down to state and state funds.
Okay.
Should amend you as the alternate then.
Do you
I'm happy to do it unless somebody else would wish to.
desire to do it, or would you like us to have Greg as an alternate, or
I'd like
have him
Greg,
do it?
I would like Greg as an alternate, and I'll go ahead and do that then.
We amend the motion then?
Okay, amendment to the motion. Do I need to have that, a vote on
We
the
didn't
amendment?
have anybody named in the initial one, so.
Oh,
I just, friendly amendment?
friendly amendment then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. I think. Let's see, number 6, consider the final reading of an ordinance setting water rates effective January 1, 2023, I'm assuming. It says 2022.
Yes, 2020. You can go back to 2022, but
It won't do us much good. no.
2023.
Support.
Did I have a motion?
No. I'll make the motion.
Motion.
I'll
Sorry,
support.
I thought
Yeah.
somebody did down there.
A motion and support, thank you.
No, we
Melanie.
can't.
Okay. Discussion on this.
Thanks for the examples of the water usage so that people, I don't know if you can put that on our civic website as well, so that people will anticipate this as of January 1st.
We can certainly do
I know
that.
people have talked about their water bills lately,
Mm-hmm.
like holy moly.
Well, I sure would like to have some other option, but we don't. You know, when they raise it like they did, there's just, what we pay out, what's coming in, we have to do this. If there was a way of sucking up 8%, was it 8%? Yeah.
12.
8%. We started at 12%.
But we had
ended at
8% that was covered.
But what we got from Burlington.
So we're,
Oh,
they
12,
raised
yes.
12, we're doing 8. Yeah. I Wish there was a different way, but we can't. And
Okay. Resolution, therefore, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Motion,
Aye.
motion carries. Consider resolution for amending the 28E agreement for Southeast Iowa Narcotics Task Force to include Henry County as a member.
Motion to approve.
Motion,
Support.
motion support. Discussion?
We have added Henry County into this agreement. They've been off and on over here quite a bit assisting, and then we assist them, so this just helps get everybody on the same page reference to if anything would happen. You know, if we have an officer over in Henry County, they'll be covered, and if they have an officer over here, they'll be covered through this agreement.
What's driving the need for that?
The Southeast Iowa Task Force,
Well, no, Henry County and
just more manpower.
call on each other to do things? Is
Yeah,
that what you mean by that?
yeah.
Okay.
Don't you guys, like, speak with each other a little bit more, too, if you have this?
We do. The intelligence that we get from each other, each agency really increases. There's just been a large increase of catalytic converter thefts, and anytime you talk about thefts and drug use, it's all typically together. So just sharing reports and getting more manpower on different operations, and it helps out a lot.
Do we have any cooperation across the river with the Illinois side?
We do. That's a whole different ballgame that we have to get into with like 28Es and those kind of things. That's more of just communications, you know, like phone calls. They do come over and we do assist them over here, or if we need to go over there, they do assist us, but it's not as common as, surprisingly, it's not as quite as common as going over to Henry County, so.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider a first reading of an ordinance amending section 136 of the city code related to snow removal.
Motion approved.
Support.
I can't tell you which one of
Anybody?
somebody down that end.
I got that one.
Pick a name. Discussion on this? Okay. If not,
Hold on. I thought we were gonna do all three of them. All three readings.
I had heard Tree say something, I guess Tree said she would rather waive read the second one and waive the third. That's what I was kind of, not necessarily just Trees, but I thought that was kind of a consensus.
oh, this was,
I don't think it changes anything either way. I just thought that's what we were doing, but.
No, I thought we were trying to beat that snowstorm.
I
Or
can
Rick
do
was.
resolution next time to waive the final.
Yeah, yep.
let's do that. Okay. All in favor? I don't, do I need a, I do. Roll call vote on this one then, please.
Young,
Aye.
Newberry,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
these.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Number 9, consider options for replacing the city's sewer jet truck. This is just a discussion, right? We don't have a motion on this, or do we?
No.
Okay.
If the city were to proceed, it's my understanding they'd like to hear from us, but we wouldn't be purchasing the vehicle until July of '23. But they won't be holding it past tonight, correct?
Yes, past tonight.
So there's really, a few different options. The current vehicle's being repaired. We've been contracting to do minimal service. There is the lease option, which in a nutshell doesn't make any sense because we can borrow for cheaper than the lease option. There is the used option. I'll let Mike talk a little bit more about those vehicles and some of there's additional cost on top of simply the purchase price for that related to the hose and which increases that cost by $50,000 or so. That was your estimate, I believe. And then
Yeah, there's 2 ways of doing that, but.
right,
yeah,
we'll do that in just a second. And then there is the purchase of a new vehicle. Nobody wants to purchase a new vehicle out of nowhere, especially at this cost. This vehicle, it was originally slated, I believe, for 26, 27 for replacement under the last schedule that I'm aware of, although there's only $100,000 or just shy of $100,000 in the sewer capital equipment fund.
But the truck's used just as much in the water department as the sewer, and we use it for streets, so this funding could come out of 3 sources for that.
Right, yeah, so there's the $104,000 in the sewer, no, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. Capital projects, capital reserve, sewer. Yeah, 97,690 in sewer capital reserve. Water, because we do use this on other projects, capital reserve is 52.5. Other sources of funding would be potentially road use local option and general fund. Another route we could do is a revenue bond or GO bond, which would give us a much lower rate than the lease, which was, I think, 5.25 plus or minus. That's in there as well. So I guess to me, there's really 2 options. One, repair it, see what happens next, and contract out, knowing that those contract costs and repair costs will add to the ultimate purchase price in a sense. And that we're not doing our full program. So about $20,000 has been spent over about 2.5 months, and that's not doing our full.
Actually, we're at 25.
Sewer program. So
25,000, and I have 3 bills not in from, so we're pushing 30,000 or a little over is what we've contacted already.
But that's not doing our full
3 months.
sewer. Our
and that's
full
not
sewer
doing
program.
Maintenance.
So those
maintenance
sewer maintenance
part.
programs, so those costs would go up if you contract out. Mike, we'll talk about the used option, and then there's the purchased new option. Now, we could buy down some of those costs and perhaps use some reserve funds and pay ourselves back over time. Although you could do the same with GO or revenue debt. We could perhaps, rather than spend $600,000, maybe bond for $450,000 or $400, or whatever, $500,000 and borrow less, and then essentially basically, we're doing it in reverse of what we're doing now, where we're setting funds aside on an annual basis to pay for this equipment later on down the road. Except there's an additional cost, as you well know, with borrowing, which is, 3% plus or minus, depending on where rates stand as of today. Mike, you want to talk about the used vehicles?
Yeah, excuse me. I'll try and talk. I got a frog in my throat I can't get out tonight, but there's several used ones out there we can get that are like from 175,000 up to 200 some thousand, but none of them have a 1,000-foot reel on them. And unfortunately, we've gave back alleys, and we got to get it from the Dry Creek under the freeway back. We have several 900 and some feet runs, so we need a 1,000-foot hose on it. And the only way to do that is cut the frame off a used one and stub the frame out to put the right reel. And he said you could be in upwards of $50,000, and he said they wouldn't even attempt it on a used model. The only way I can get the 1,000-foot out of it is to drop to a 3/4-inch hose, which is going to make my RPMs up where I'm at now with the old one and not be able to control. And what this demo, they really showed and taught us a lot about nozzle type, RPM, and gallons per minute on how to stop blowing up in toilets. Their demonstration showed us a lot. When we jetted with this new one, they showed us that truck jetted at an idle. Right now, we have to run ours at 3,000 PSI to get it to even pull the hose, because we're not getting proper flow because our pump is shot on ours too. And that's probably guessing at around a $20,000 bill to put a new pump on ours.
The used ones, how old are these?
Greg, did you send that out to all them? I don't remember the ages.
10 years, 5 years, 20 years?
I think they were 11s and 12s models.
Okay.
10 years.
10 years-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
The current used model was purchased in 2011. It was a 2002. It lasted 20 years.
Yeah, we've got 11 years use, but I've also put in, just with the major repairs, we paid $65,000 for that one back then, and I've got $55,000 that I put in that truck. That's not the normal oil changes and tires and things like that with this last repair. And this last repair, we don't know until they put this gearbox and the shafts back in what else could have been bent or wrong, I don't know. But we are getting this put back there to use. The problem is, this one that's available, if we don't step on this one and sign up, it'll be 2024, another whole year out before one's ready. And the 10%, it's what was it, $50,000 a year more with the increase is what they're estimating. So if we wait 3 years to save money, you can add another $150,000 to that $600,000 to buy a new one.
How can they predict that?
Pretty much everybody does every year. They'll tell you on mowers and everything else, they'll tell you what percent the increases are going to be. And that's usually what happens on my tires and everything. They can tell you in January.
It's not a guarantee, it's just based on the information they know today.
Information of how things are going right now.
So you're saying a $500,000 truck is going to be $650,000 in 3 years?
Yeah, it could be. With the cost.
He's not far off, because I already talked to a fire truck manufacturer, and trucks that were running 450,000 are already at 575, and that's from 6 months ago. It's because of supply issues, and it's also, there's some other, it's just a manufacturing standard.
Yeah, and that supply and demand is the issue too, because they've got them all spoken for 2024, and they can't get any more stuff.
23.
Or 23, they can't get any more stuff to build anymore that year, so you're out at least another whole year.
Can I clear up a couple other things? We talked about option one, we repair it. I thought last time we were together, we couldn't get the parts to repair it.
They got half of them, and we just got an email a week ago. We talked to Greg. They will be here on Tuesday to start assembling or disassembling and putting ours back together. I don't know how many days it's going to take them to do that. Probably a week, they're suggesting, before they're out of here and got it back together. So at that point, we won't need to hire anybody unless the next thing that goes wrong, then I'll need to hire again. And Melanie had given me a bunch of questions, asking for information about sharing with another city. Well, that never works, because If we put on 100 hours and they put 200 hours in the machine and something goes out, who decides who pays for what on repairs? And when I got an emergency and sewage is backing up in somebody's basement and they're in process of using it in Danville or whoever we share with, then I still don't have access to the machine when I gotta have it. Just like the main break over at Houston and Vernon, when we had that excavated and ready to go and it's backed out, then caught a sewer line that was in there at the same time the water break. Well, that jet truck was there to suck up anything that came out to stop the contamination to the water system. They were different levels, but I mean, when that emergency arrives, I mean, this truck is the same thing as that fire truck is to Sean. This is my emergency link. When something goes wrong, this is the only way I stop it from filling basements is have this machine up and running in my shop. And I understand the point of saving money before you do this, because that's what we've been trying to get through and get set up and done, but this is one of them things that I can't prolong it to 2027 because I don't know how much longer this truck will even last.
Yeah, I want to stick on the repair just a second. So in a couple weeks, you're telling me we're going to have it up and functional, and so now we're talking about what happens for the next time, or are you going to be sort of functional?
I would say sort of functional, because we already know by running the new ones and what we're having to run RPMs, we already know that our pump's not performing what it's supposed to do. We have to run that pressure because there's nothing that pushes that line. Water pressure out of your nozzle is what drags that hose 1,000 feet underground up there. So we got to get it at full pressure and steam to get it up there where.
And this system's always been that way? It's just how it's built, or that's like a new thing that started this year, or?
No, it's been that way pretty much since we had it. Other than the way it's made, there's like 5 jack shafts and belts and gearboxes. They don't even make a truck like that anymore.
Okay.
They took all them components out so that they can do it with hydraulics and lower RPMs and amount of gallons per minute by your head on your flow. They're just so much, we've learned so much by having these demos come in compared to what we just have a dinosaur. It's just what it amounts to.
It's my understanding, Mike, that this truck didn't have to run those RPMs prior to this pump starting to wear out.
Each year it's been having to be.
It's been because of pumps.
I would say the last couple of years, yeah, that you pretty much, you pull the throttle wide open to get it to drag the hose
So
up.
if we have a new pump, though, it'll go back to where it was normal or not idling or.
There's pumps, valves, check valves, there's a lot of things involved with that.
Yeah, right.
But that could be another 20,000 on what we're already spending too, so.
So we buy a new pump, put $20,000 out. And we got a truck that we can, if new trucks are $150,000, $200,000 everywhere, we got a truck that's worth $75,000 or $100,000 if you have a new pump and the new transmission.
They won't even take it for trade right now.
We sell it.
I say we have to try and sell it. It's the only way, or you put it on GovDot.
But then we got a pump that's got a 1,000-foot reel, because your truck's got a 1,000-foot reel and hose, and we can get to anywhere we want until we can budget.
But to change the used truck to get the 1,000-foot with a smaller hose, we're gonna be right at running wide open to get the performance to get where we need to get. It's all in timing and manufacturing and setting up a truck with all the right components. We're gonna be taking a 1-inch hose off, putting a 3/4 inch, you're gonna change flow ratings and
On
everything.
our truck.
No, if you buy another used truck, I thought that's what you were talking about.
I'm saying fix our old truck for another 20,000 besides what we got, and then we have a new transmission, a new pump.
That's not a transmission, you're talking gearbox here.
Or gearbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then the tranny could go. Or what if that big gear spline on the top and the boom falls off the top? I mean, there's so many things on this expenses.
Can't we?
We're just to the
Can't we
point,
put that same situation on any equipment we have? What ifs that this breaks and what ifs that breaks?
not the condition this one's is, it's not the same. I mean, I got a dump truck that's gonna be 30,000, or 30 years old almost, and it's more reliable than the 2004 we got.
I mean, this is also why we're putting together our equipment replacement plan.
And
So that-
Andy had asked for that, what,
we don't-
3 years ago, or
I
whenever
know,
you started.
and when we got it back,
and
we got
I-
it back without your equipment on it. Not
Yeah,
your fault,
I've
right?
turned that in and
Yeah.
pre-Greg, and it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Or we would have had these funds.
Yeah, when we got that 2 years ago at budget, it was, we've got all this laid out, all this is in there except for Public Works. It's like, well, what good does that do us?
Well, those numbers weren't accurate either.
No.
In there.
Yeah, at least we had a stab in the dark at something, but now it's You know, we
I
didn't
turned
have
more
public
in,
works at
I
all.
turned more into Greg on that today. Greg's getting that all finalized, and we have years and times, and we can back things up if we don't have to, and
So I've got 36 pages of numbers. Which number are we actually looking at for the new one?
Green one.
There's multiple of those. That's why I was.
497, 122, 26.
That's on page 4.
That's with all the cuts. We had all the operators running these, and we eliminated fancy lights, stuff that you don't have. We got down to what we need and what we use. I've also tried to eliminate all of the aluminum rims on it because I'm not out for show. I'd be fine with steel, but that's Freightliner's package. This truck's already online and the chassis is being built, and they can't pull that out of there now. That's just a package part.
Does this number have your stainless steel tanks?
No. I have talked to Burlington on that. They've never had a problem because they treat the water. South Dakota, North Dakota, that's where they have the corrosion and aluminum tanks and the problems. We should not have that here. They have never had an issue at Burlington. And Burlington pretty much told me that that's a cost that we don't need to spend money on. The aluminum.
What is the $297,000 version that's on here, option 2?
That's
I don't have what you're looking
Isn't
at.
that a financing one? What page are you on?
That's on 36.
Yeah, I think that's a financing.
You have two financing options that were provided, the municipal lease options,
On it.
$497 and $297.
With a $200,000 down payment. That's
Okay.
what it's $297.
Okay, so I don't need to worry about that. What about the 500 and,
That was the original price before I started hacking things.
Took off.
510,000, or, yeah,
yeah,
510.
somewhere just north of there?
Yeah, I just scrolled past it. It's on page 11.
Price is currently being built, and then Mike went through it and said, we don't need A, B, C, and D.
Currently,
Now-
Mike, you are paying $10,000 a month for your services. I mean, because you said about $30,000.
Right now, with no truck. Now, that'll go down if I get mine up and running, but I have no guarantee on how long that's gonna run or how much. I mean, my thoughts are, I'm just trying to get it to you guys. I know everybody, in my 3 years here, and when Randy was here, they just think it's great because Public Works can make stuff last so long, and we get stuff that's 20, 25 years old, but the problem is when we get to that point and it crashes, then we gotta do something. And now with the way Greg's got this set up, if we start getting this money set aside, that won't be an issue too. But I also have a lot of old dump trucks and things and issues coming up too.
But it looks
And
to
I'm
me
to the
like if
point,
you're,
I'm just to the point with this jet truck that, my math in my head, you guys make the decision, but we've already spent more than what we bought the truck for, and this 30,000 we're spending next week, we will never recoup that besides everything else we've done to this. I just feel like we're throwing good money down a bad rabbit hole right now.
You're saying that you can't get 30,000 out of that truck once it's running?
Everybody's already told us that. Not with that year truck and that style. You will never get it back out of it. That's my option. All the manufacturers they said no. They won't even take it on trade.
Well,
And maybe they're saying that so they can buy a new one? Or,
Nope. They said they would be lucky if we could get 15 out of it. And the best way we can do is go to an auction, or like me and Greg said, we can try and sell ourselves. Maybe we can get a small town to come buy it. Mediapolis bought our last one.
We'd put it out on Geb
I
Deals
believe
and
that's
see
what
if
they
a smaller
paid us
city
was
wanted it.
16,000 for the last one that we got rid of. That's all we got out of
Same
it.
position. I'm not sure why they'd want it.
Does Burlington only run one?
No, they have a new one, the same, what we're looking at to get, just an older model. And Chris Clemens told me that he plans on not keeping that any more than 12 years and trade it out when it's
Well,
worth,
it's still got
when
some
it's worth a
value.
couple $100,000 to go towards a new one. And I believe they have a trailer mount, he's got an old trailer mounted vac, and he's got a new one in this year's budget, he told me, so. And that's the problem. I've talked to Chris when all this happened, to see if Burlington, he said in emergency, he could help me if he
Right.
wasn't, but
Not
he
on
can't bring
general.
his guys over here to do all of our routine stuff
Yeah.
because they can't get their work done. And that'd be the same thing with us trying to, Melanie brought that question up too. Can we go to Danville and help them out, or someone else to try and recoup some of our money? Well, then we're not here in West Burlington getting our own work done. And the other problem with, as much as we use this, that came up too, we didn't used to use this a lot, just the jet sewers when we had a blockage. Now we got this routine thing. And with all the fiber and the MediaCom and electric, there's spots we can't even get a backhoe bucket in the ground anymore. I mean, over there on the dairy, there was a power line between the two valves. Everywhere we go, we have to vac down like the contractors, find those utilities, see if there's room to get a backhoe bucket, and you can only get so much with a backhoe now, and you're using this. And a 4-inch valve up by Teresa's they did last week, the valve was broke, but it wasn't a leak, but we were going in to fix the valve. They dug down to it, the hard clay and the rust on the bolts, they couldn't get the wrenches on. They brought that vac in here with that hydro, cleaned it off, cleaned the pipe, shiny. All we had to do is bolt it and put it in. I mean, there's money, the time it saves.
I'd like to share one concern I have about all of this jetting. I know there's a lot of positives, but I feel like sometimes we pass on some of the negatives to the homeowner, because I do think we're maybe causing a little extra damage over time. And I'm especially talking about the older part of town that still has some clay tile sewer during parts of it.
Pretty much all of our sewers are clay tile.
Yeah.
But I believe with this newer version, it will not cause as much because they can be in more control of how they do it.
Because it's the amount of, and I'm not just talking our area, all over southeast Iowa, the amount of sewer issues I've had in homes this year has been a rough number at it, probably 40% of the homes I sold. And you just see it, and then anytime we have sewer work done and they go in and jet it, then all of a sudden, well, we've also got a break in the clay tile that we just caused.
And that break was probably there, and the roots came through and plugged it, and when they cut the roots out from jetting, then you see what was broke.
Could be.
People put a lot of things down the sewer that their toilets that they should not be putting down their toilets. Burlington replaces theirs on an 11-year cycle, which is but they have a full program. I mean,
the truck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the same size program, and that's a 4-person team jetting on constantly, other than when there's emergencies or snow removal. To your question or to your point, to me, it's essentially a moot point, because under Iowa law, if there's a water main break, there's strict liability for cities. As you may recall, my house was flooded twice, and the city insurance covered that, and that was a water main break. Sewer, if you do not have a maintenance program, and you do not do that annual maintenance, and you do not do the annual maintenance program, then we are on the hook for, or we are liable for those problems that the homeowner may have. We're required to have that maintenance program and to complete it.
There's been a lot.
Not fully doing right now. You're hitting the problem areas when you were doing work this fall, and into the winter.
In the spring, we go back to the areas that we do have problems, and we hit them in the spring, so they get twice. And our call-ins at night and weekends for block sewers have dwindled way down from before the previous years of me working here, by doing this maintenance and keeping on top of them and keeping stuff out. It's made a big difference on the call-ins and the emergencies on that, but.
I'm just going to put in my 3 cents, because I think we can hammer this to death.
Let's just try 2 cents.
We used to buy used police cars, and we don't do it anymore because we found out that they were expensive. I can only remember one time getting a used fire truck way back in '91. Otherwise, everything is brand new. I would say I'm not going to keep spending good money after bad. I'm very conservative. I'm still driving my 2003 Toyota Corolla. I drive it to church. I have 117,000 miles, and I maintain it, and I'm going to keep it running. But my car is not comparable to what you're doing. You're down underground, keeping the sewers clean, and I watched them do that water repair there on Swan Street on Swan Street. And I mean, it was lickety-split. I mean, before, because, my water was affected being turned off that day. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to time it. And, after they brought that in, it was lickety-split. I had water. People didn't, my neighbors didn't even know the water was off. And I said, well, I knew it was off, but, I know that information. And I think the idea that we can keep people happy by not having the water turned off for hours and hours and getting parts, it was pretty slick the way that operated. And I was affected when you guys came through in the spring. My toilet went boop, 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 but I didn't have any back spray. Now, I know the person around the corner from me, when you jetted, his toilet went boom, and he had a mess.
There's no guarantee,
We can't,
there's
we
no
can't
guarantee
fix
that
all
won't happen,
those.
but it should not be
Should not
happening.
happen. It
as
shouldn't be
often.
that.
It should not be happening, and that's a discussion that Mike and I have been having since I got here, and trying to figure out why this is happening, because it should not be happening on a regular basis. I'm not going to say you're not going to have it, especially with an older home, but that should largely go away.
And that's a lot of
it should
what
not happen.
Chris told me over there too,
My
with
point
their
being,
truck.
I'm in favor of buying this new truck and putting it in July. I mean, we can beat this dead horse all you want, but, you know, I've got to look for the safety of your people. If this thing blew up, I mean, what would have happened if one of our employees was
Fortunately, when this did blow up, they were at the sewer plant and the truck was running and they were out in front with the hose in there while they were skimming duckweed off, and nobody was standing by the truck when all those pieces come flying out from under it. They could have been on the street in a manhole when that happened, and we could have had more issues than just truck maintenance.
This would also, I mean, if the council was interested in moving forward with the new vehicle, we could discuss the exact mechanism or method to pay for it. I mean, I can come up, I've got several different ways in which you could do it during the budget process. Right now, I have it plugged in under capital equipment for discussion, but there are several methods by which, you know, we do have some cash on hand. For example, I'd hate to use one-time general fund to take us all the way down to zero, but you know, maybe we bring those costs down. Maybe we do bond for a portion of it and basically pay for it over a period of years rather than the entire amount. But we do have some sewer funds set aside. We do have some water funds set aside. Less inclined to use the water, but perhaps some. You know, road use is an eligible expense. Local option sales tax. General fund, one-time expenditure, I mean, that's what, the fund is there for emergencies as well, so we could bring those costs down. I would hate to do so by $600,000 at one time, but it could certainly offset a portion of the cost and reduce reduce the amount that we'd have to borrow.
I think we use local option sales tax yearly to fund the tower.
Yes, used to be $150,000, something like that.
When they were paying off the tower and Rescue One.
Yeah, and setting aside money for the last purchase. And then 150 or 120, I don't recall exactly what it was, but we've reduced that amount based on the current, the current equipment set aside. We reduced last year based on what we know for upcoming purchases. We take a look at that every year. I'm doing that right now.
It changes my math based on one thing you just said.
Yeah,
You said 600,000.
Yeah, where'd that
Oh, I'm sorry, 500,000. 500,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna,
Touch base on, just, excuse me, but with Treese, once she talked about how quick we can do this, the newer model too, the options we didn't even know, this has a telescopic hose on it, so right now it takes roughly, when you pull up to a manhole, about 7 minutes to carry tubes, clamps, raise it, put everything together to go in a manhole to suck the leaves out. And then you got to pull it out, disassemble it, put them on the truck, and then go to the end of the block, reassemble and do it. This truck is capable of reaching 15 foot without putting a tube on it. You pull up to manhole to shoot the tube out, done it, suck it back and go to the next one. Shoot it out, the next one, and go back. There's lots of advantages on time savers and safety issues about this too.
Well, I guess I want to add my 2 cents to, I came into this meeting, I'm thinking that we should repair the truck. I think we should buy a pump and have it on spare, and a new pump will get you that pressure back. But then after listening to all the details, if your figures are right about it going up 50,000 a year, if that's right, but even if it's half that, the interest wouldn't hardly be the difference of the 25,000 going on. And, we're gonna have to buy one sooner than later anyway, so I guess I've changed my point on this, and I guess I'm leaning towards going in debt for this.
And I'm fully on board with saving the money and having this plan that I started 3 years ago, and it didn't happen, and Greg has got this lined up, and we got things scheduled now, and we need to start putting this money in reserves for this, so we don't, the same thing happened with that street sweeper. When it finally rusted and fell in two, we were done and we had to do something, you know? And unfortunately, we're at that point again.
Oh. I think waiting is too big of a risk. The price is gonna go up how much? How much are we paying monthly when we don't have a working truck? I think that we have to have a better option.
But we could have a working truck, it just, we don't know how long. that
But
working
how
truck's
much
gonna
money are we willing to throw at that possibility of a working truck?
And don't forget, this isn't until July of,
So if we don't do this one, we're an entire year, maybe more out before, that we're paying monthly to rent from
Yeah, I
somebody
mean,
else.
if this one goes down again, Greg did the figures roughly where we're at now. If we try and save money for 2 years, we could possibly tie up $240,000
10,000 a month, yeah.
And
for paying somebody to come in and help us out.
Another,
And then still need 2 years, you're gonna still need a $600,000 or $650,000 truck at that point.
another point that I have is, are we putting our citizens at a bigger risk to use a truck that's that outdated, that doesn't have the ability to run at the lower pressures? I mean, I feel like that's not safe if we have other alternatives.
Like I say, what I've learned, we should be able to decrease the blow-ups, but just want to make it clear, I'm not guaranteeing that isn't going to happen once in a while.
But if you're.
Because plumbing in some houses are the way they are, and I can't fix that, but.
but it shouldn't be happening. It
I've
shouldn't be
had
happening.
3 of the council members give their 2 cents, so Melanie, you haven't given your 2 cents yet, right?
I know what I want to do.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Andy?
Well, I definitely think we should buy the new truck at the $497 if we can get it, especially if we don't have to pay till July. And my hope would be during the budget process, we can find as much cash to pay for this as possible. So even if we gotta make a cut or two elsewhere or use some cash reserves so we're not borrowing all of it.
And that's a concern of mine, that.
I would either want a work session to do this or in the budgeting.
Someplace else.
Yeah.
But if we can grab this one and have them hold it for us and do that tonight, I think we should.
And that's my plan, is to kind of come up with that. I'm hesitant to tell you today exactly where the numbers should exactly come from, but, you know, our general fund balance came in substantially higher than we expected. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with one-time expenditures out of your fund balance. I mean, that is what it is for. It's there for emergencies. And then, you know, we can work to pay ourselves back. So I would certainly make a recommendation. I do think we should probably borrow a portion of it to bring the cost down, but I'm not going to say, but I'll come back, we can come back with a plan, and you can change that plan, obviously, but during the budget process to identify exactly how we want to pay for this.
My only other comment I wanted to make, because I didn't know for sure that we were done on this, was on the repair, I think we should repair what we have.
Yeah.
Because even if it only lasts 6 months, that's still cheaper than paying somebody else.
Yeah, no,
Council approved that.
that's date set. They'll be here next Tuesday
Okay.
at our shop. They're gonna do, instead of trying to haul that thing clear down below St. Louis, they're coming to use our pit. And they will start on Tuesday, and I don't know how long. I will let you guys know if it's back together and running, or if there's something else that snapped or broke from the.
It's cheaper than,
Yeah, cheaper.
theoretically
Cheaper
cheaper.
than 1 month.
Right, yeah.
Longer we can use it.
Council already approved that expenditure.
I think we should put a new pump on it now.
I guess, Ron, I do have a comment. If we vote to approve this and we buy this, Mike, and when that comes in next July, I challenge you guys to use it to its fullest ability, to figure out all the other ways they can use it already.
That's-
And don't shortchange yourself on the training. It sounds like you learned a lot with the demos you had.
No, we've had lots of demos on lots of equipment stuff, but all the guys just said the same thing. They just, what they learned by these guys in the demo And the training's part of this. There'll be their operator will be here for 2 days straight. And every one of my operators will run it by themselves, not so that we learn all the options. And then his phone number's there. If we're out in the middle of the night, we go to use this and something ain't working, we can't get something to turn on. I mean, we dial his number and he talks us through it on the phone. And, because we've watched Four Seasons do that with their new one. They've had an issue and they get on the phone and they got it running and we got to finish our project.
I think the warranty sounds pretty
So what is a
appropriate
warranty
as
on
well. It's page 4.
Well, my computer shut off. I'm trying to.
It's a 1 year bumper to bumper, 2 years on engine tranny for the jetter. The truck chassis part is bumper to bumper for 2 years. Part of that's 5, some of it's 10 years for water tanks. It's all busted up in components. Yeah. Oh, and also in that warranty, the first year, there's a, not that we want to use it or hope we don't have to, but there's a towing fee up to $750 towing if we have to have it towed somewhere. And I said, don't be telling me that. Hope we don't have to have it towed somewhere. But I've never seen that on a warranty with a towing.
For what it's worth, I've never not bought a new JetVac. Now, those are with different programs that are running constantly on an annual basis. But they've served their purpose and done what they're supposed to do, and protected the city at the same time, and the residents as well.
And that's my issue with buying a used one that's 7, 8 years old. They're getting rid of it for a reason, and you just don't know what that is until you purchase it.
Well, with the discussion, I think I've heard a consensus of the council members. Do we need any kind of a formal vote on this or not?
Mike will find that out, tell him that we're ready, that we want to secure the one for 23. If he needs anything else, if he does, we'll bring that back to the next meeting. But and then we would budget for it and not have to pay for it until the next fiscal year. Thank you. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls him tonight.
Watch your budget.
Based on the snow.
This coming budget.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, no.
Please fire it.
Okay.
We don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion on this because it'll all transpire after July, so.
Okay.
Let's see, we're down to old business and any citizen inquiries, which I see none. We can close this session, and then I believe we will have a closed session, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn on this. Wait a minute, motion to go to closed session, I'm sorry.
Support.
Motion and support.
Me, I support.